Animated live from the south side of Chicago. This is CNN Reports and I'm Oprah Simfree. On today's show, we review a very serious situation that developed between Suge Knight's Bloods gang and Southwest T's controlled side of the Black Mafia family in Los Angeles. In a previous video titled The Rise of Big Meech and BMF, we discussed the fact that the DEA first became aware of Big Meech in 1997. It was rumored that Meech killed a Detroit drug dealer that testified against a member of the Puritan Avenue Boys or PA Boys. The PA Boys were a large drug dealing organization from Detroit, but Puritan Avenue boy Tony Valentine had moved to Atlanta where he was arrested on drug conspiracy charges. Dennis Kingsley Walker received a reduced sentence of 3 years in 1994 in exchange for his cooperation against Valentine. On the day that Walker was released in 1997, someone, allegedly Meech, shot and killed the snitch. From this information we can conclude that Big Meech and Southwest T had already begun to plant their flag in Atlanta by the mid-90s, long before they adopted the name BMF. Do you need more proof? In February 1996, Meech was taken out of Magic City in handcuffs, after allegedly throwing a bottle at a patron and slicing his neck. Still, somehow, someway, Meech was still a frequent presence at the strip club after that incident. The aggravated assault charge was dropped because Meech used one of his many aliases and fake identification. 2 years later in 1998, Meech was arrested again when a suspected drug house was raided. He again used an alias and fake ID to avoid prosecution. He was released from custody before authorities could connect the fingerprints of a Mr. Ronald Ivory and a Mr. Rico Seville to a Mr. Demetrius Flannery. And then, it seemed, Meech disappeared from Atlanta. In 2000, Meech was charged with a DUI in Los Angeles, where he identified himself using a recently issued California driver's license in the name of Andres Carruthers. Again, his fingerprints would be used to identify him, but not until after his release. Investigators would later learn that, thanks to an older Detroit associate by the name of Wayne Waniak Joyner, Big Meech and Southwest T were hooked up with a California cocaine supplier in the mid to late 1990s. A source who could supply them with vast amounts of Colombian dope delivered straight from the Mexican cartels. Daniel Hugo Corral had access to the cartels through a couple of sources. Thanks to Waniak, and his kind introduction to Hugo, the Flannery brothers would import more kilos than they could have possibly dreamed while working the grind of average inner-city drug distributors. The brothers began to move hundreds and sometimes over 1,000 kilos of cocaine per month. To keep up with the flow of drugs and cash, the Flannery brothers would have to employ a network of several hundred couriers, distributors, and money launderers in nearly a dozen states. The brothers, in turn, had the smarts and stamina to manage a drug operation of that size. At least for a while. The brothers' distinct personalities, more often than not, balanced each other out, but there were a lot of arguments that sometimes led to the brothers actually fist-fighting each other. Around 2001, the brothers decided to split the family into two crews. Instead of one family with two co-leaders, there was two separate crews operating under the umbrella of one family. There wasn't any real beef. The brothers just needed their own space. They continued their relationship as brothers, often taking exotic trips together, but their businesses were separate. Terry set up shop in LA where he could keep a close eye on the deliveries of product from Mexico. Meech, for the most part, stayed in Atlanta where he could pursue his dream of laundering his drug money through a record label, but both could live wherever they wanted and traveled extensively in the early 2000s. In 2003, Meech decided to give his drug organization a name, so the Black Mafia family was born. Legendary West Coast producer DJ Pooh introduced Meech to Blue Da Vinci while the family was staying in Gardena, California for a while. Blue was the only artist ever signed to BMF Entertainment. He is a terrible rapper who didn't make Meech any money as an artist. Blue did, however, introduce Meech to Amin Bull Height. Bull became one of Meech's closest confidants, and a high-level manager in the BMF drug network. When Puff Daddy's former bodyguard Wolf shot Meech in the ass outside of Club Chaos in 2003, Bull caught a bullet in the back of the leg. The relationship between the Flannery brothers and Puffy did not seem to change after Wolf was murdered. However, the brothers' relationship with each other worsened, and they eventually stopped speaking to one another after a trip to Cancun. This sets the stage for the confrontation between Suge's crew and Terry's side of the Black Mafia family in Los Angeles. Before we get into that though, we'll let Bull explain how he got down with Big Meech and what life was like rolling with BMF.
Through Blue. Him and Blue was doing music together, and Blue seen we had a lot of the same common interests and wanted to put us together. Because I really didn't want to meet him. He was like, man, come over and meet these niggas. I'm like, man, I don't want to meet nobody else. None of your friends. Because he was in them Hollywood circles, but you know when you get in them circles, man, you dudes be weirdos and strange, bro. So I seen that at a young age. You know, Blue been around them dudes at a young age. So I had money then. So to take me around him was comfortable because I fit what was going on, but I wasn't comfortable. So when he came to meet him, it was just like another one. I was like, nah. He like, nah, he different. Like this nigga really like us. I'm like, nah, nigga. He's like, man, just come through, fuck with me. Went over there, started fucking with him, and we had the same bad habits, smoking weed and just chilling. And I think that just locked us in together.
Yeah, we guys been the basis of a lot of great
friends. Like two Indians in a little circle, that was us. Like we would smoke some weed up. He told me he was a hustler, but you know I'm from LA. It's a bunch of hustlers out there, so it didn't really mean nothing to me. It was okay, that's cool. That's your friend, but I ended up just going over there. Because, I mean, you know, we was hanging out, I just ended up...
You from the West Coast?
No, he was, Meech was staying in Gardena. He was staying in Gardena at the time, so it was 5 minutes from where I lived. So it was, I just come through, and I went through one day, and it was just comfortable. Like, it was chilling, I was chilling around the corner, so I was serving at the time, so I was shut down the block when the sun went down. So I just started going over there. When the sun go down, I'll go over there, smoke with them, chill for a while. And from there, we just built a relationship and got real cool. I never really considered getting involved with it. It was just really an honest friendship. Like, we was just really cool. Like, I would fly out of town and hang out with him for parties and stuff like that. But in the midst of that, my car got stolen out of his driveway. And he was trying to get me to be like, fuck that car, man, you ain't gotta worry about that. I'm more or less, man, I gotta get back to the house and get my shit back together. And he was like, look, man, stay right here and I can show you how to get that and some more. And he said, you could go back home and do it your way. So I'm like, nigga, I'm gonna go home and do it my way, man. This is your shit. You know, I like the way you live, that's cool, but I'm cool. So I was like, nah, man, I'm cool, I'm gonna go home. So, you know, them Indian circles sitting there smoking, powwowing, got the conversation back up, and eventually he was like, man, just stick around here, nigga, I'll show you the world, nigga, it's bigger than what you think. And the conversation was real, like, nigga, it's more to it than just LA. In my mind, I knew I was trapped. And I knew by the things that I was seeing by hanging with him that it was more to it than what I was seeing. And I wanted to see. So I'm like, let's go.
Did you have any idea of what level he was involved?
I mean, your street common sense can see what level by the things you see around the houses, the cars. You can see what level a person is on, so you can judge it from there. That he was definitely on a level above me. Definitely.
This is 99?
This was, I met him in 98. I say I started going places with him in 99.
Why did Atlanta become the base?
It wasn't really a base. I think the government, the police labeled it our base. It was just a place we came to have fun. And it just became the place where everybody seen us. So you would label it our base, but it was no base. Because we moved from everywhere. We stay here 3 months, we stay there 4 months, we stay over here 6 months. there was no base. It was, where do you feel like being right now? Like, hey, let's go here for a while. Let's lay right here. Let's go lay our head over here for a while. But on the outside looking in, it's, oh, they're always here partying. No, this is just the most comfortable, beautiful place to party. Why not come here? It's relaxed, it's laid back, the party scene is beautiful. So, what better place to go and show your ass and spend that money than Atlanta? So, your mind state from the outside looking in is this is their base. So, no base, this is where we came to party at. That's because, I'm gonna tell you where that came from. That came from, I forgot what it was at, but somebody started calling me, hey boss. Hey boss, man, something boss. Like, you know, call me boss, man. It's like, all the niggas over there is bosses too. Like, why you sitting there calling me boss? And it filtered, I think that's where the we all bosses started at, is because he just, like, man, you ain't about to be calling me boss. Like, man, I ain't your boss, man. Everybody in here boss, we all bosses. And if you looked at what we was doing, we was all bosses. Because everybody ran their own situation. From the outside looking in, you would see one man and a crew. Because that's how your average drug organization or drug crew is laid out or depicted. It's the nigga who gets the plug and then he sells it to his friends and there it is. Well, your average drug crews are citywide. We were nationwide, which means that each individual had more control than what you would do in your city. So therefore, I could run a state, or he could run a state, or you could run a state now, because now it's enough work to run states. We're beyond hoods. Hoods is 10 packs, 20 packs, 30 packs. We hundreds, 200s, 1,000. So I'm beyond a worker. I'm a boss. How am I not a boss? I can go turn a whole state on. A whole state. I can light it up. Change the demographic of a whole state.
Alright, now that BMF Bull has told everyone exactly how BMF was rolling in the late 90s and early 2000s, and I've told everyone that the brothers fell out with each other following Wolf's murder in November 2003, we're going to hear how Big Meech met Suge Knight in Miami before the 2005 Source Awards. Please hit the like button and subscribe for more content. It's free for you and a big help to an up-and-coming channel like ours. Cavario, who is a writer and former hustler, best known as a co-founder of Don Diva magazine, which under his influence came to be known across the country as the original Street Bible, will explain how Suge and Big Meech got cool. Finally, Meech's personal driver Dexter Sosa Hussey will describe a tense situation that occurred when Suge met Southwest T's side of the BMF crew.
So Meech had rented Jackie Gleason's house, right? And very futuristic looking house. And you can imagine, like, Jackie Gleason owned this house 40 years ago. 40 years ago, that it was like some Jetson shit, you know? So we're at the house. You know, we get there, and you know, we settled in. Everybody pick up a room, whatever have you. We had a big joint, had a pool table and all that. Everybody was there. Then we go to a strip club the first night, go ham, have a bunch of fucking fun. I don't remember what club it was. After a while, they all turned to the same club. You know, it's the same shit. You know, once BMF walks in the building, it's just a movie anyway, so it don't matter. It could be nothing. If you go to any club, during that time, you went to any club and BMF was in there, you had a misconception in most instances of what that club was like. So if you went there and BMF was in there, you're like, yeah, that club was crazy, it was going there, it was going there. And you go there, you know, a week from then or a month from then, and we're not in the building, you're like, this what happened? This shit fell off. No, this is the real club. What you saw was the greatest show on earth, as Meech used to call it. So, you know, we're down there, and a couple people came through the visit. So one person that came through the visit was Suge. Suge had not too long before just gotten out of prison. This is after the kicking incident with Pac in Las Vegas and all that, right? So they still have him on a really tight leash. So he came through, you know, he still whipped us out there and all that, whatever, you know, in the crib and all that. And, you know, he was like, all right, you know, motherfuckers is doing their thing. So he comes in, we're sitting upstairs at this big dining room table, you know, kicking it, you know, little Meech Mimi is running around on this, you know, kids, it's a black Hummer, you know, electric black Hummer. And it looks exactly like Meech's black Hummer. And it's got BMF on it, decals on it in silver, just totally ignoring, you know, the 30, you know, hardcore images, you know, or individuals, you know, milling around with it. It's like daycare to him, right? So we sitting at the table, we're talking and stuff like that. And Suge's like, yeah, you know, man, I like y'all moving, man. I like how y'all doing it, man. All the brothers coming together and, just getting along and take care of each other and all that. And he said, I want my movement to be like this, man. You know what I mean? So I made a lot of dumb mistakes in the past, man. A lot of dumb choices, man. You know, I used to do shit like, you know, we go over in the club or whatever, and, you know, we see some football players over in the corner. They might be popping bottles, doing their little thing or whatever. And I walk and I look at my crew and like, yo, y'all want to let them niggas front on us like that? Fuck, man. It's our time, man. And we would have these cats set it off on these is, you know, football players, like these is regular cats, these squares, you know. And they set it off on whatever, you know, that kind of behavior, he admitted that kind of behavior caused his trouble. You know, he understood that he was in an extremely advantageous and unlikely position with, you know, what Death Row had accomplished. So, yeah, he's like, yeah, I'm gonna chill, you know, I'm gonna stop the bullshit, whatever, you know. And 2 weeks later, he ended up having that incident at that award show where the kid punched Dre in the face. The nature of the thing is the nature of the thing, right? So, anyway, we sitting there, we chopping up, we talking and all that, and, you know, he gets caught up, you know, we building and all that, and he gets caught up and time gets away from him. So he's like, yo, I gotta catch my flight, blah, 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 blah. So he shoots out and he's gone. So some hours later, or maybe later on that evening, Meech gets a call in the show. And he's like, yo, Mitch, I missed this fucking flight, man. Yo, I can't get on my fucking flight, man. I came back to LA, yo, man, they gonna lock my ass back up, man. They gonna give me 9 years, they gonna lock me back up, man. I'm gonna get to court tomorrow. I gotta be in court tomorrow, man. They gonna lock me back up. So Meech was like, look, don't worry about it. I got you. Alright? Chill out, I'll be back. Meech gets on the phone. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning, in fact, I remember this. He calls a guy on private jet that he gives him, right? And the guy fuels up the private jet in the middle of the night. Scoops, Suge come, catch up with him, whatever, fly Suge out to LA, right? And I don't know if people have an idea of what private jets and fuel and so forth, because you're talking about minimally a $20,000 endeavor. Okay? Not to count tips. Meech never wanted discounts or anything. It'd be 100 of us going into a club. The only thing he doesn't want is first to have to wait on a line. He gonna pay for every single person full price. He can do a discount. Don't nobody pay for nothing when Meech is moving with us. He gets insulted if you pay for anything, right? Suge flies out, gets there. He's cool. You know, he calls back, yo, man, thank you so much, man, I appreciate it, blah, blah, blah. This and I mean, if he hadn't done that, it would have, Suge would have been back in prison.
So we were tight knit. They wasn't getting in our shit. What had happened was these guys that when we were together, these guys knew of other things that we done. That's why I say these guys went back and remember the shit that I've done when we were together. So when we split, we were over here, they were over there. So these guys used that testimony and that togetherness. The Spades want to make this one big conglomerate. The BMF, they ain't saying nothing about 263, even though they're going to say in investigative reports that they said dozens of times that they had been separated about 2000, 2001. They knew that. But
263 is
that's Terry's people.
Yeah.
And that story about that 263 is, if you look on the phone, that's BMF on the phone. It's the same thing.
Mm.
But when he was out, Terry was out one night with Suge Knight at a studio, and Suge called Meech and told Meech, He said, man, one guy over here with a bunch of jewelry flossing like a motherfucker out here hollering BMF, man, what you want us to do with this nigga? You know what I'm saying? And he's like, who? He's like, fat boy. He's like, man, put him on the phone. He's like, put him on the phone. So Suge gave him the phone. He's like, Terry, you cannot use that BMF no more. And that's when they changed their name. Because they had already fell out, but they were still hollering BMF. So Meech cut that shit out, and that's when they changed over. They changed the name.